Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talking to the Void. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, and today we're continuing the series The Death of the MCU with my first hot take on how Endgame sealed Marvel's tragic fate by absolutely ruining the Avengers and giving them dissatisfying character arcs and endings. Again, all of this is just my personal opinion, but it does build into my overall argument about how Marvel has kind of screwed up its future, given what they did previously and in Endgame. So, first up on my list of characters to discuss, Iron Man. I remember being so unbelievably hyped for Endgame, largely because I was hoping against hope that they would be bringing Loki back and showing how he faked his death in Infinity War. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. At the time that I watched Endgame, I told myself that I had enjoyed the movie, mostly because I was a rabid Marvel fan and didn't want to admit, even to myself, that I was disappointed with the choices they made. But after seeing the Doomsday teaser, I'm ready to spill the tea and admit that I think Marvel really shot themselves in the foot with their choices in Endgame, and there's not really a way to backpedal and undo what they've done. Now, I knew going into Endgame, and I think a lot of us knew, that some beloved members of the original 6 Avengers were retiring or else not going to make it through Endgame. However, the character arcs they wrote for that movie were mostly trash, in my opinion. Let me explain. So, starting with Iron Man, as it is the focus of this episode, to be honest, I understand why he died. But I think that an alternate ending where he lives would have been feasible and good as well, possibly better than him dying. I understand that a big part of Tony Stark's character is his ego, and back in the first Avengers movie, Captain America makes a statement about how Tony isn't the type of guy to sacrifice himself, or I think the phrasing they used was make the sacrifice play. And so Tony is proving that wrong in Endgame by sacrificing himself to undo Thanos' snap. Additionally, I forget who said it, but somebody, probably Pepper, said that Tony Stark wouldn't be able to let go of being a superhero. It would never be enough for him, and he wouldn't be able to retire. He'd always be worrying about the next, alien invasion or threat to humanity, and he wouldn't actually be able to let the superhero life go. And in the end, he proved that statement true. He died a hero instead of living long enough to retire with his family. Now, what I think would have been more impactful would be Iron Man ready to step up and make the sacrifice, only for, at the last second, another Avenger, maybe Thor or Black Widow, I'll explain my reasoning for this in future videos, to step in because they know that Tony has a family, and this other Avenger, either Thor or Black Widow, as I'll explain in a different video, does the snap instead. I think this would still have worked and been impactful because Tony was still fully ready to make the sacrifice, thus proving Steve wrong, but by letting another Avenger do the snap, he yields control, something that he also greatly struggles with given his ego, and since he lives in this scenario, he's able to also prove to Pepper that he wants to prioritize their family, and he can gracefully retire from his life as the superhero Iron Man. This honestly is what I would have preferred looking back, but that would be too logical for Marvel at this point. Yes, I'm being sarcastic here. The reason why I think him giving up control in the end is kind of important is because he's a bit of a control freak. Think about the whole Iron Man trilogy. He became, especially after the Avengers, he became obsessed with protecting people and always being prepared and always having contingency plans, and he couldn't let things go. Him being able to yield control at the last second to let somebody else do the snap instead of sacrificing himself shows that he has essentially gained the ability to let things go, which would also be a fitting sort of end of his character arc because we also know he's egotistical, but by ending up living, he is going to be with his family, and so he's prioritizing his family instead of himself. And then he's also yielding control, which is something that he's historically struggled with, and he's able to finally peacefully let go of being a superhero. I personally think that that would have been ideal, but as much as I understand why they had Iron Man die, they are bringing back Robert Downey Jr. now for Doomsday, and I think that letting him retire would have been better, and then you could also have random cameos from him if you wanted in the Spider-Man movies, because we know that Iron Man and Spider-Man have like a working relationship, you know? So I think that would have worked as well. But anyway, that's not what happened. This is just what I think should have happened instead, or could have happened instead, that would have made it better and been a more satisfying end to the character arc, rather than what Marvel actually chose. Plus, it leaves the door open for Iron Man to return, should they ever want him to make a cameo or in fact do another movie. I think Robert Downey Jr. said he was done doing Marvel movies when he retired from the role, but lo and behold, he's back. So I think that my version wouldn't really have functionally changed that much. Anyway, that is all for this episode of my series, The Death of the MCU. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video and consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss my upcoming videos in this series. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Sending you all the love.